Hello and welcome to HeritageCast 17, which is of course powered by 360 Chartered Accountants and Budget Tyres Hull. And it is with great delight that we bring you someone who has been an almost ever present in the most successful era the club has ever enjoyed. At a time when reaching a cup final was when and not if, our latest HeritageCast guest pulled on the famous red and white of Hull Kingston Rovers 383 times, kicked 166 goals and scored 89 tries. He is also a Wembley winner and played international rugby for Great Britain. And it is with great pleasure that I'm able to welcome club legend David Hall. How are you doing, Dave?
Okay, mate, I'm good.
Yeah, good. For people who don't know, we've had a few technical problems, haven't we? But we've got there in the end.
Yeah, I actually saw that video what you just put on.
I did, yeah, good. So you can see some stuff. Excellent. Yeah, so it's it's great to have you on board. I mean, HeritageCast 17, we're really proud that we've been able to get so many former players on. You are our first Wembley winner, though, Dave. So it's a great honour to be able to speak to you, to speak to someone who's been at the club when, like I said, one of our most successful eras. I remember my mum and my nan talking to me about Wembley and John Player Cups, Yorkshire Cups, all stuff like that. So for us younger Rovers fans, it's almost like a different era. So it's great that we can get you on for you to tell your story and your involvement with Hull Kingston Rovers.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, obviously, them 10 years was probably the best, that Rovers ever had. Such a great team, and we had a great time, great following, fans and that, and played in plenty of finals. And won a few, which was nice. Won a few championships. So for them 10 years, like I say, I think it was the best that the club's ever had.
Yeah, I mean, you was at the club for I think 14 years, was it, Dave?
15 years, yeah.
15 years. Wow. I want to take you back though to your childhood. Where was you born? When you was growing up? How did you get involved in playing rugby league?
Well, it's funny. I come from Greatfield. We lived on Greatfield, and not far from the ground now. You know what I mean? A stone's throw. And I went to a school called Stockwell on Greatfield till I was 11. And all they did was play football. So football and cricket. So that's all we did, football and cricket. And I got trials at Hull City when I was 11. I used to go training with Hull City. And then when I went to Shakespeare, where obviously the ground is now, they never played football. The school teacher played rugby. Having a game of rugby, and from there it just kicked on. It was when Rovers got to the Challenge Cup final in the 60s or 65 that I first ever watched it on telly, the Rugby League Challenge Cup final. And then when we get in playing rugby at Shakespeare, it just took off. I just got addicted to Rovers, like.
And was you watching Rovers at the time as well, Dave?
Well, like I say, when I went to Shakespeare when I was 11, they played rugby, so football went out the window. So then obviously I started to watch Rovers because I was playing rugby, and I looked at Rovers, and then I was hooked on Rovers. I went every week, from Greatfield. I used to run from Greatfield to the old stadium on this road and run back, you know what I mean? In the early 60s with the Frank Fosters and, all them all played. They had a good team, so it was well worth Alan Bearwell's, Peter Flanagan's, fantastic team. And I say from then, I played rugby right through the school to 16, and that's when I signed for Rovers in 1970.
And is that how it worked then? So you went straight from school straight to Rovers? There was no club rugby at that time?
Yeah. Oh, no. I just went straight to Rovers. At 16, I was playing in the A team. There was no Colts out. You went straight in the A team. It was no, you didn't mess about. You had to learn the hard way, you know what I mean? But at the time, I signed that year, like, Johnny Millington signed and Steve Hartley, people like that. And just after that, like Roy Allstock, Dave Escop, Ian Medley, so we all knew each other. We all played in the A team for years. Had to play in the A team a few years before I got a regular.
And obviously at the time, rugby league might not have been the most sort of prosperous of careers. Was there anything in the background that you was on with sort of at school or after you left school, or was you fully focused on your rugby league?
No, it was just rugby, really. I did jobs there wherever I could, labouring jobs. I worked on fish stock early with my dad, when I was a young kid. Pretty tough. You had to get up for work every day, you know what I mean, and go your training and do your playing. But that's how it was, you know what I mean. Nearly everybody had a job, and you just had to work through it.
Yeah. Do you think them sort of manual jobs helped you with your rugby? Because obviously going to the gym and things like that, it's still quite a relatively new concept, isn't it? Back
Yeah,
then, doing the
yeah,
physical labour helped you out, especially, playing against some of these big lads who you'll be lining up against, especially in the A team.
that's right. Yeah, true enough. You know what I mean? It was tough, and like you say, going to the gym and all that, we didn't even know about. I didn't know about weights till later on in the career when it got brought in. About 1970 odd, we started doing weights in the gym. You know what I mean? There was no weights or out like that. It was just all running and what have you, physical work on the ground.
Yeah, and you've already mentioned a few names, but when you was a kid watching Rovers at the old Craven Park, who were the names that you wanted to emulate and you really looked up to?
Well, Rovers had a good team, and the last time, the times I went to see him, obviously Peter Flanagan was an absolute. I was like more of a footballer when I used to go home and watch Rovers sorts flash, and Alan Barwell, he was an absolute star. You know what I mean? In them days, I just loved the way he played. And I used to go home, pick the rugby, run from Rovers, pick the rugby ball up and go on the field and think I was them, you know what I mean? That's how you was when you was a young kid,
Yeah. And was it a difficult decision to sort of go down the rugby league route rather than football?
Not really. Because once I'd left, I loved football when I was young, up to 11, like I say. But then once I'd left the school and then they went to rugby, it was just a transition, I played on Bullfree Park, I was 11 for all schools and all that, and I enjoyed my football, but as soon as I touched the rugby ball, it was just rugby,
Yeah.
It worked out, local kid, and what we've done and been in the best years for Rovers, it was absolutely a dream come true, really.
Yeah, I think you've already mentioned Steve Hartley, but who were the players who were in around that A team at when you first signed, and who was the coaches round then?
Well, we had our best coach we had was a kid called Paul Daly. He played for Rovers, come from Leeds. He was an absolute brilliant coach, A-team coach then. Really looked after us. He was playing first team rugby and still doing A-team coaches, you know what I mean? And I say the A-team, I probably played in the A-team for 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years before I got a regular spot in the first team. But we all come through together, the A-team, like I say, Roy Alstock and Steve Hartley, and then, we come right through it. I mean, Lowie and Rosie was already established, you know what I mean? And there was only a year or two above us, and that's how the team grew in the A-team, I think. Paul Daly was probably the standout coach of the A-team who I can remember the most,
Yeah, and sort of that A-team, do you think that what gave you the foundation really to go into the Rovers first team, being sort of part of a group of lads who were similar age, similar ability, travelling week in, week out to games? Because how often was you training, Dave, back then?
Well, yeah, we did 2 nights. We just did Tuesday, Thursday, played Saturdays then mostly, you know what I mean? So it was just 2 nights and and then played Saturday. And it was, the A-team, luckily, I say when we were 16 and 17 just coming, we actually got to play with people like Peter Flanagan and Alan Barwell in the A-team, you know what I mean? They was coming to the end of their careers, and if they got injured, you had a game in the A-team. And to play alongside them, you know what I mean? The people I used to watch and loved, it was unbelievable,
Yeah. And what was the relationship between like the A-teamers and the first team squad? Because we've heard stories of where you haven't been invited into the changing rooms. If they find out that you've been in there, they'll have a right go at you. And some of the senior pros won't be bothered about the younger players, whereas others would spend the time with them and put their arm around them and give them some tips and advice. What was your relationship like with them?
Yeah, you had that. You had a first team dressing room and you had an A-team dressing room, and you had to earn the right, to go in the first team dressing room. But I mean, after it was only the dressing room, because once you got out on the pitch, everybody trained together. You know what I mean? You was all just one family. You just mixed in with them. And I can remember like running alongside Roger Millward. At 16, I just couldn't believe it. Oh, I'm running alongside. In training, because you all trained together. It was good. It was brilliant in them days.
Yeah, and as you progress through the A-team, did you start to get a feeling that there might be a chance for you to make a career in rugby league?
Yeah, I say it took a while. it took a while before I got really established. I think it was about 4 or 5 years I got in the team there. We had a decent team. We got a decent team together. And I got an extended run in the centre for probably all the season. I played alongside the great Jed Dunn, the winger.
Yeah, he used to be my PE teacher.
Oh, what a fantastic
guy.
Really sadly missed him. Really missed Jed. And I played alongside him for a bit. And in that year, I think he got about 40 odd tries. I got about 19, 20. So it was lethal on that side. We had a real good year. And really, I never looked back from that year, Once I'd got in, I literally, was first teamer all the time then. Never played much A-team. Only if you got injured and he was coming back from an injury, you used to play A-team just to get your match fit, But yeah. Great time.
And it must have been a proud moment. You made your debut in 1971 against Bradford. You was on the losing side, but it must have been a proud moment for you and your family to pull on that red and white shirt.
Yeah, it was. It's a proud moment. I can't remember much about the game, so I must have played crap, I think. You don't forget them games. But yeah, it was, just to get in at that age, I'd only been there just over a year. So to make it like at 17 was all right. But like I say, it took me till probably 2021 before I got really established.
And how did you deal with the physicality back then?
Oh, it was tough, mate. You know what I mean? I mean, when you played in them A teams, you played against blokes who've been playing for years and years and years, But luckily, we had first teamers who dropped down to the A team, people like Colin Cooper, Cliff Wallace, and they used to look after you. You know what I mean? We had some hard cases, you know what I mean, in our team, and they really looked after us when we was young. It's great.
Yeah, and was you on contract terms then? Because obviously now, I mean, rugby league players still are, they're not earning millions like footballers and stuff, are they? But obviously the money's probably a lot better now than it was then. Was you on a contract when you first signed, and what was the money like in them early days?
I'll tell you what, I signed for £500, which most of the lads I'm talking about now did. And when you signed for that, you signed for life. That was it, the one-off payment. And I think I was playing in the A team, and if we won, we got £4.50. And then it went up to about £6. So you got a bit of stamp off it. So if you got that on a Saturday, that'll last you for the weekend, for have a good weekend out. You know what I
mean? Yeah. So definitely the incentive was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, once you got in the first team, and all of a sudden you got winning pay, which was about 40, 50 quid, you thought, Christ, look at this, what I'm on. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and just give us a flavour of what it was like living in. Was you still living in East Hull at that time? You said he was from Greatfield.
Right through my career, yeah. Lived on Greatfield. It was fantastic, you know what I mean? When we really got playing well, and Craven Park was buzzing, you know what I mean? There was no finer place. And what as well was the fans used to follow you all over, you know what I mean? Once we started getting successful, no matter what ground we went to, there was thousands of Rovers supporters. And it was a real family thing. We got involved with the supporters, you know what I mean? We used to go in the clubhouses after the game across to the Silver Ring, to talk to supporters. It was a real family. I knew loads and loads of supporters, you know what I mean? All great people. Some still around now, but the support was out this well, especially away from home.
Yeah, and I suppose the flip side to that, Dave, is when it's good, but when you've lost a few, you're probably the first one to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the early part from the 70s to 70, 77 when we first won something real good. We won the Yorkshire Cup a couple of times, but it was tough. It was tough at Rovers. You know what I mean? We want a great team. We want a very good team. In a couple of years, we had 2 really lean years, and it was tough. Like, you know what I mean? And so in 76, when Harry Poole took over, and we got a decent side together, and I know it was a quarter final. We played at Castleford in the cup, and they was favourites. It was on telly, and it was unbelievable. We beat them. We played them off the park, and after the match, I'll always remember walking out the bus. I don't know if you've been to Castleford. They've got a training pitch at the back, and after the match, went out there, and it was just full of red and white supporters because they couldn't get the buses off. There was that many there. Still on that pitch singing, and it, just that was the start. Unfortunately, we got beat in the semi-final against Widnes, 11-4, but we got suspended. John Millinson and Rosie got suspended, and it cost us that. Else we'd probably gone to Wembley that year.
Yeah, and it's probably a bit similar to now, Dave, in that, you know, we've been starved of proper success for a long time, and when you go through a barren spell, probably, you know, like you had at the club, you know, in them early years, that you're desperate to jump on anything that you can. Did you feel that as you was progressing through the A team, and then you obviously made your debut, and then you was starting to play regularly, that you was building towards something? Did you feel that there was a crop of players there that, you know, if you managed to get one trophy, one championship under your belt, that you could then go on and win a few more?
Yeah, I think you're right there. You know, we come through the A2, and then this squad comes together. I say in that 76, and then in 77 we won the floodlit. You know, then in 78 we won the championship. You know what I mean? And you could see that we'd all play together. I mean, if you look at the teams, what we had, you know, your Millows and Watkins and Ray Olstock, Lowy, Rosie, you know, and Len. You know, what a pack of forwards that was, you know. And then you had like Mike Smith, Steve Hartley. But all them I'm talking about, we all went on and had testimonials, you know what I mean? We stayed at the club, you know. Most of them stayed over 10 to 15 years like me, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the team was broke up, so we come together and we stayed together right till the end, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I suppose that the core of that team was Hull based, wasn't it? You know, kids from Hull. Do you think that has a big impact on like you said, you've already mentioned about, you know, you'd see the fans in the pubs, you'd be speaking to them about the games, and when you're as close to the supporters and you've got a group of lads from Hull, do you think it probably means a lot more, but do you think you get a bit more of a tighter bond, which propels you on to maybe going and winning trophies?
Yeah. I mean, there was, you know, 10, 11 kids, you know, who was from Hull, like, but the out-of-town players, and we didn't get many overseas players early, not well, you know, around after 80s, really. So we've got kids from the West Riding, you know what I mean? But they're just say people like Dave Watkinson are just like an old kid, you know what I mean? He loved Hull Kingston Rovers, he still does. But yeah, the majority of us from Hull, it was fantastic to win things, you know, for your hometown club. You know, Rovers meant a lot to a lot of us, you know what I mean? Really did.
Yeah, and you know, East Hull born and bred, obviously lived there all your life. You went on to play against Hull in a number of finals. It must have been interesting when you come up against Hull in the derby.
Yeah. When Craig was at Rovers, and I used to say, "Don't worry about it. You're only playing a league match." I said, "Fancy playing them in the Challenge Cup final. That's when you know what I mean. And that's when it means a bit, not 2 points. You know what I mean. That's when there's pressure." But Hull had a great side as well, and you know the supporters from both sides of the city was fantastic. You know what I mean. But no, it didn't matter when we got on winning championships and Challenge Cups and other cups. You know, just going into a pub, just walking down the street, everybody taught rugby. You know, you didn't have this. You didn't have the, you know, sending texts here and there and all this on social media. To talk rugby, you went in the pub or you was out in the street. You know what I mean? So it was good. It was good times.
Yeah, and you must have seen, you know, some of the old players out and about in the pubs and clubs and stuff. We've just lost you there a little bit, Dave. Right, we've got you back, Dave, after a couple of technical hitches, but we'll carry on from where we left off. And we're just talking about the rivalry, especially in them early days, about, you know, you might be meeting players in clubs and bars and stuff like that. Was it a proper rivalry back then, or was you friends with some of the players?
Yeah, plenty of friends. You know what I mean. We actually we used to have some mad Mondays where you played Sunday, and we used to go out on a Monday, and we always used to meet up with the old players, Paul Prenderville, you know, and Knocker Norton and them. And we also used to go out for a drink. You know what I mean? It was, and then it got a bit later on. It did get a little bit serious, and then the Mad Mondays had to stop. So we was training on a Monday, so we couldn't really go out then. He stopped it, Roger. So, but yeah, I had some, you know, really good friends at all, and you know, but say the rivalry did get a bit intense in the end. You know what I mean? But it was all good. We was friends with them all. There weren't no malice, I don't think.
No, and obviously I think it was it 78, the infamous Good Friday game where I think at the Boulevard where there was bricks thrown and stuff. Was you playing in that game, Dave?
Yeah, I did. It was Easter, and I'll tell you what, the pitch, there was no grass on it at all, and it was, you run out, it just like horses' hooves, on the pitch. It was that hard, and obviously we won. Yeah, Lowy try at the end, the great Lowy just strode away, like he did. But yeah, there was you saw people, walking around the pitch with a red split up, through the bricks that had been thrown. And when he used to go off, at the Boulevard, it was used to go down like a little cage. And I remember one time we're walking off, and Roy Allstock, this woman run on, headscarf on, all the other headscarves on, and with an umbrella, and she beat hell out of him, calling him all the dirty beast. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. And as you went down the tunnel, it was a way of mess, and they used to spit on you and all that. You know what I mean? It was murder. The rivalry, really.
No, and that's it. And for me, if you've not lived in Hull and you've not experienced the derby, I don't think you can properly understand how much it means to people, what the rivalry is really like. And the only thing I can compare it to is like a football derby, like a Celtic Rangers or something like that, because the especially over these more recent years, that the intensity and the hatred between the supporters has grown and grown, hasn't it? And you've got families split, friendships split. It's a really unique atmosphere and relationship, I suppose people enjoy. But I mean, seeing things like bricks being thrown and all that kind of stuff must have been crazy at the time.
It was terrible, it was really, really bad. And like I say, I think, like in them days, like I say, all the Rover supporters, they used to meet each other in the pub, and the banter was there now. But like social media now, I think it spoiled it all, doesn't it? It's all on social media. Some of it's crap, the way they call players and all this and that. You know what I mean? And probably people who haven't even played rugby league are out like that. And you read some of the stuff they put on. They wouldn't have done it nowadays. So they'd have to come, like walk up to your face, wouldn't they, and tell you if they wanted to say all about you. You know what I mean? Which would have been unpleasant for some of them in the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, your Craig will tell you what about some of probably the runnings that he's maybe had with people who have said something to him on social media, but if they saw him on the street, probably wouldn't say a boo to a goose, would they?
Yeah, no, they're all brilliant players, aren't they, on the iPads and 𝐁𝐿, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about your sort of early parts playing at Rovers and starting to grow in your position as a team. What was your favourite position when you started playing? And you played a few positions, haven't you? But where did you start out, Dave?
I started playing at the same as a centre. I was playing when I left school. I was playing off after all schools, but they saw me as a centre, so I started off playing centre. I say never got established really, like I said, in the centre while then, and 75, and then. In 76, this is a real funny story. We're playing at Wakefield, and we had a fullback called Colin Tara, and we used to have two subs then. And when you come out at Wakefield, you just come out in the middle of the pitch, not at the end like they do now. And I was sub, so me and somebody else was sub. And what you had to do with the sub, you had to carry the walker bucket out, you know what I mean, or the first aid kit. So you put your tracksuit on when the lads had gone out, and anyway, I'm coming down the tunnel, and the game hadn't even kicked off, and Johnny Moore's shouting at me, Ollie, get your gear off. And I'm thinking, get my gear off? I ain't even got to the bench. I'm coming down this tunnel. And apparently Colin Tara, he had a dicky knee, and he was changing ends. They did a kick-off, and he was changing ends, and he stuck his toe in the ground and did his knee, and he's laid there with a stretcher. And I've come on, and it must have been the fastest substitution ever, you know what I mean? And then from then, I played fullback, had a decent game, to be honest. And I got the fullback role, obviously, from 77 in the floodlight, right up to Wembley, Played fullback a bit, playing sometimes off half and sometimes fullback, but mainly fullback. And it wasn't the best position. I didn't like it, but I had to play there because I couldn't maybe get anywhere else. But that lasted up playing fullback up to 8-1. After 8, I got I played loose forward in '81. First game against Hull on the Boulevard. Again, I must have done okay because I got picked again and then again and again, you know. And then we got to Wembley that year, and I was playing loose forward, and then Ian Robinson, who was playing fullback. I mean, Ian was a great fullback, great player. Poor lad got injured. He did his knee before the semi-final. And I knew what Roger was going to say to me, you know, because I was really enjoying playing loose forward. And he said, "You'll have to go to fullback. I've got nobody else." You know what I mean? So I played fullback as well in the '81, but then went loose forward after half time, and then from '81 I played loose forward right through to the end, and that's where I enjoyed it really, really well. You know what I mean? But playing in the team I had really made it a lot easier. You know, the great players that I played with, it was unbelievable.
I was going to say, what is the challenge with the transition? Because you've seen it. I mean, in modern day, don't you, that some players can't make it. Some people can't cope with making that transition from wing to full back and vice versa. So, what was the difficulty for you? Do you think at that time, or was it all like you said? Was it easy for you to do?
Well, it come like I say, it come for Roger just finished, and I don't know. He must have seen some of that I never saw, and so it took me out loose forward and. Just to make a link, you know, to the greatest. So, you know, I mean, when I look at, you know, the team when you've got people you pack like Milo and Roy and Watkins, say Lowy Rosie, Chris Burns, Andy Kelly's Ogie, you know, runners. So I was just like there to fire the bullets, you know what I mean, just to load them up and yeah, you can have it and off you go, you know. And then you had your backs, you know, your Fairbairns, your Dunnies and Sullivans, your Smith and Proms and Steve Hartley, you know, and so I was just like the cog, really, playing with the scrum halves, you know, Arkin and Alan Hager and Smith. It was so easy because look at the calibre of player. I'm just telling you, it's unbelievable, isn't it? When them nails, you know, when they're reeled off, and you know, then all of a sudden we get John Dorry and Brodie and Smithy, you know, Gordon Smith. What players! It was just unbelievable to have that calibre of player playing with you. I'd rather play with them than against them.
I was going to say, Dave, I mean, what has been a Rover supporter as well and seen some of these great names line up, was you in awe of them a bit, or did you quickly sort of bed down? And
mate, honestly, I mean, like I say, I was a kid from East Hull, living the dream, and I mean, I captained the side a few times. You know what I mean? I captained them in '84 in the Yorkshire Cup final because we had injuries to Dave and Len and Dave Watkin and Len, so I was captain in '84 a few times, say in the Yorkshire Cup final and then against Queensland. You know what I mean? Which we can't forget, and then in the Premiership final, and to walk out in the Premiership final and look behind me and see the calibre player that, you know, like Great Britain internationals, you know what I mean, and play the left there, and you think, Christ, I hope that ain't gone again.
No, I've got you here, Dave. Got you.
All right. Yeah, so you know, then to lift the trophy in front of the fans for me was probably accolade of my career. You know, to pick a trophy up and hold it aloft. Yeah,
incredible times, and I suppose. One of the people who was credited with that is, of course, you know, the late great Roger Millward.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to first of all play with him, but then obviously see his transition into a player coach and then coach role?
Well, Roger was just Roger, you know what I mean? He was so down to earth, you know, even though he's the greatest one, you know. He was just a down to earth man, you know what I mean? On and off the pitch. Such a fantastic bloke. You know, he was like the father, wasn't he, for us all. Everybody loved him and no wonder, you know. What a player to even just think I've played with Roger Millward, you know, because everybody you talk to when you talk about Rovers, the first name that comes up is Roger Millward. You know, it's unbelievable, isn't it, you know? And when they say to you, did you play with Roger Millward? Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? It's fantastic feeling.
And back when he was playing, did you see that there was a coach in him? Did you see that he had the ability or the leadership to be able to then go into a coaching role?
You know, just thrown on him was Roger, but, you know, just look at his pedigree, you know what I mean? A player of him with all his knowledge and how he read the game and all that, you know what I mean? And then him, you know, he had some people like I say, like 𝐁𝐿𝐾𝐬 and Len, who led the team. You know what I mean, on the field. They was the main two. They really led us and got the best out of everybody else. There was just pure winners. You know what I mean. There was no thing about losing. You know, it was all win. We've got to win. You know, it's win. And they went on the field, and if you weren't doing your bit, you know what I mean, you got told. You know, so but they're just led by example, and I think that made it easier for Roger as well to have a team of the calibre of what we had. You know.
Yeah, and it was a great team, wasn't it? And obviously, the standout for that team is, and for probably you as players and as us as supporters, is the 1980 Challenge Cup final. The precursor to that was obviously you played Hull in '79 in the BBC Two floodlit. You're losing that.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna move on to the Challenge Cup final, but just tell us a little bit about that 13-3 defeat at the hands of Hull, and also, Dave, a lot of people, especially younger listeners and viewers to this, won't even know what the BBC Two floodlit trophy was.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was a great. The floodlit trophy was. We had some really good matches during the week. Really enjoyed them. Yeah, we got to beat Hull again. We did have a few injuries that night. I played off half, so obviously Steve Hartley didn't play or whatever. So we had a few injuries that night. But I say Hull was a good side. And, you know, they was the best side on the night. And their challenges right through. There was as good a side as us right through the them 10 years.
Yeah, and it must have been a pretty incredible time in the city, really, to have two teams fighting it out, you know, at the top, competing for trophies, etc. There must have been a real buzz about the city at the time.
Oh man, it was unbelievable, especially when we got to Wembley. You know, we got there the week before Hull, and then Hull got there, and literally from that day, every pub or where you went, the pubs was full from Monday to Sunday. Monday, you know what I mean, and all it was about was rugby. You know what I mean? It was. No matter where you went, it was about the final, you know what I mean, the build-up. It was a must-win game, you know what I mean? It had to be, no matter what sort of game it was just a must-win game, you know. And thankfully, you know, we won it, and it hadn't happened again, obviously 40 years, and it still hasn't happened again, you know what I mean? I'd like it so. I'd like it so for the younger supporters now, but I think in them days, like I said, there was no social media, so everybody went in the pubs or out, you know, where you saw them outside, whereas now, probably if the two clubs got there, there'd be more banter on social media than there would, you know, in the pubs and clubs or whatever, or on the streets, you know. But yeah, I'd like to see it again for the younger people to experience it. You know, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, obviously our most recent trip was against Leeds, wasn't it, in the Challenge Cup final?
Yeah.
That was just a game that never got going for Rovers, was it? It was such
No. I remember going. A few of us went. I remember sitting in my seat and thinking, "Oh my God!" I think the only time I got up was to go to the toilet. You know what I mean? They never got us out of our seats once, did they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was. You know, for them lads, it must have been absolutely. Well, I don't know how would have felt. I mean, when we got be witnessed not by a lot, I know it was one of the worst feelings I ever had. So, yeah, it was. I must admit, it was a bad day for us. I'd like us to get there again. You know, when you look at it, I think that's our best chance this year. Although I know it was only 80 minutes from grand final last year, but when you look at last year when we was playing Cass and we beating them easy in that round 16 teams left then. So we're going to go in the quarter final bit, and then they come back and beat us in a bizarre finish. And next thing, they're at Wembley, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, that could have easily been us, you know. But
yeah, and I think this season you only have to win 3 games.
Exactly, that was the same as that. You know, they had Cass at home, and then which they should have been. They'd have been in the quarter final, and then you see Cass at Wembley, and you think, God, we had them. It could have been us. You know, that's the small margins in it. You know, hopefully. I think, like I say, I think our best chance, although, like I just said, was in the 80 minutes from the grand final. I think that's our best chance this year, especially if we get a couple of home games, you know, in the quarters and the 16s.
Well, fingers crossed, Dave, because we are desperate to get back to Wembley, and not only get back to Wembley, but to be successful at Wembley. And obviously, you are one person who's got their hands on a Challenge Cup trophy. Just give us a bit of an insight into the build-up to the final and the buzz around the city, and probably the pressure that was placed on you, because, like you've already mentioned, this was a game that you just could not lose.
No, that's right. It wasn't the best of games that Wembley's produced, but it was a pressure game. Obviously, being a derby, an old derby, and like I said, when Millwood had got when they had got through, it was just that was it for 3 weeks before the game. It was just continual talking about it. You know what I mean? And we left on the Wednesday to go up to London. And when we went down the Wembley way, it was a feeling that you couldn't believe. And then we went around Wembley, and it was getting a bit full. We had to walk around, but then when you come out to the cauldron at Wembley Stadium, 95,000, just red and white and black and white. It was a moment I'll never forget. And I must admit, when the ultra went, the relief he just drained out of you. You know what I mean? It was incredible to win, and the homecoming was just as good as well. The homecoming was fantastic. Never seen so many people in my life. Yeah, but we can live on the memories till the both teams go there again, can't we?
Yeah, and I suppose, Dave, for you being a supporter of the club, you must have felt a bit of added pressure, because not only are you looking after your professional career, it's where you're earning your money, etc. No doubt, if you win a trophy, it opens up a few more doors for you. But also being a supporter and knowing how much it means to the community, it must have added a bit of extra spice for you.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing, I say we had some great rapport with the supporters. There was fantastic, followed us all over in the thousands, you know what I mean? And that was for them, you know what I mean? The support we had over them years was brilliant. Now, I mean, even Rovers now, they're getting great support, travelling support. When Craig was there, I used to go, and I couldn't believe how many people, went away. It was just like our day, you know what I mean? We've always had that great support away. But it's saying them years, there was fantastic supporters, and we appreciated every time we went away, the away support. It really lifted us.
Yeah, and I'm just going to read out the team from that day, Dave. And obviously, you was at full back. You had Steve Hubbard, Mike Smith, Steve Hartley, Clive Sullivan, obviously Roger Millward, Alan Agar, Roy Holstock, David Watkinson, Brian Lockwood, Paul Rose, Phil Lowe, Len Casey, and then on the substitutes with Phil Hogan and John Millington. And what really stands out from me, and this is me sort of probably looking back, is the experience and the leadership that was in that team. Not just the ability, but there was proper men in that team who were able to probably get you over the line when other teams might have faltered. Yeah,
true enough, mate. Yeah, the leaders, like you say. I mean, when you just mentioned that pack, probably the best pack. Well, I know it's the best pack I've ever played behind. Being fullback behind that pack for 3 years, it was an easier job than you thought. You know what I mean? And then you look at it, and they're nearly all old lads, aren't they? I said there was only David, Watke and Lockie, and then we had Miller on the bench. They're nearly all old kids. You know what I mean? And that was a proud moment. So have a pack like that,
Yeah, and it's not often as well that a prop gets man of the match, and Brian Lockwood.
Brian got man of the match. I thought if I'd have picked a man of the match for me, it'd have been Alan Agar. I think when Roger got his Jordan, really Alan took over. You know what I mean? He just kept us all together, nice and tight. You know what I mean? Talking all the time, and I think man had just about gone to Alan. I think if I'd have been picking it.
Yeah, and it must have been great to line up alongside Roy Holstock as well.
Oh mate, yeah, it's me. It's my brother-in-law, right? And I'll tell you, him and Miller in the years, they was absolutely fantastic. They went forward every time they got the ball. They went forward. They worked the socks off, and they played usually for the 80 minutes as well. You know what I mean? They was just incredible. Two brilliant props. Two of the best we've had. In Hulkington Rovers years, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's incredible, really, isn't it? Because we've almost gone full circle now, because you've got props who are once again playing 80 minutes. Where obviously back then you had to. You only had a couple of substitutes on the bench, didn't you?
That's right, and it hurts me to see sometimes. You go watch these games, and you see props do quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and they put their hands up to say, "Can I come off?" Don't they?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you know what I mean. But there you are.
But yeah, obviously, you must have been delighted to win the trophy and then to come home and bring it home to Hull. I've seen the videos on YouTube of the parade at Hull City Hall, stood on the balcony. You can't count how many people are there, thousands upon thousands. And, it must have been a bit of a surreal moment for you.
Yeah, it was, because we actually got the bus when we come back. We went to 𝐁𝐿𝐵𝐷𝐼, Newport, just, around there to pick the open top bus up. And Hull had one as well. And there was there, you know what I mean? And we had the trophy on ours, and there was the hand that was crying. It was literally crying. No, I'm not kidding. There was mates and all that, and to see grown men, there was, because they knew how much it meant, to have that trophy. And we'll come back to Hull, we'll come down Greenwood Avenue and Sutton Road, that way. And then as we hit Sutton Road, and we went through Sutton and Long Hill, and then once we hit Holness Road, it was from one end to the other, just absolutely rammed. I've never seen so many people in my life. And what a feeling, fantastic. And then to get to the City Hall and stand on there, you felt 10 feet tall, brilliant.
Yeah, and like you said, absolutely thousands upon thousands. I suppose that just gave you a taste of what might happen if you was to go on and reach more success. We'll go on to the next season's Challenge Cup final. Was it hard to replicate that success, or was there things in that game that wasn't the same? Or talk us through that Widnes game.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't as much pressure because it wasn't like the derby, was it? But I think I say what had happened, and I'm not, I don't want to think of me, but we lost Brian Lockwood, who went to Widnes and had a good game that day for them, And like I say, most of the season I'd been playing loose forward, and we had we was doing all right, and so we're playing a bit of open rugby and that, and then just on the having to not play fullback, it just maybe put us out of our stride a bit. You know what I mean? We didn't play as well. We didn't deserve to win. Widnes played a lot better than us, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, but so it's featuring 2 Challenge Cup finals must have been incredible. And like we've already said, it was almost, I bet it was like rock stars in Hull when you're walking around it, especially in East Hull. I bet every time you went home, you was getting mobbed.
Yeah, I mean, the Wembley finals are fantastic. Like I say, when you win it, it's the greatest place. When you lose it, it's the worst place. It really is. I was really upset after the game, and but you get on with it. But like having said that, I know it was only 2 finals, but what really for me was winning the championship, because that was the thing. We won it 3 times in that time, and it took some doing. You know what I mean? Because there were some good teams. So they were really good times.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you remember that, because obviously, supporters of a younger generation like myself, there's such a big thing made of that 1980 Challenge Cup final. But when you consider 3 premierships, 3 championships, 2 premiership, incredible, because also your seasons. I mean, what were you playing back then? Sort of 32, 34 games a season?
Sometimes we played 40 odd one year, 40 odd games, with the floodlights and all that. And at the end of one season, we actually had to play 5 games in 11 days, and 2 of them was in Cumbria. It was unbelievable, honestly, at the end. But it had to be played, you know what I mean? Because the season finished. The last game of the season was the Challenge Cup then. So it had to be played. And then you got your premierships, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we had 5 games to play in 11 days. There was one at Workington and one at Barry in that as well. So it was a real... I think I played in 4 of them, and when it comes to the last one, we'd won the league, and I said, I don't play anymore. This gets Widnes on, came back on a Tuesday. I said to Roger, no, I'm spent. You know what I mean? But we put a team out, we got beat, but it was only half a team, but yeah, we'd already done the job.
And when we've just said about how many games you'd play in a season, and you'd have midweek games in there. What was your recovery process like? How did you get over a game? Because it was such a physical game back then as well, wasn't it? And you had players like Roger was skillful, etc. But also you had some really hard blokes. So how would you recover?
It was hard, mate. It's you just had to get on with it. I mean, you did play with a lot of injuries, to be honest with you. It was never 100% all the time, you know what I mean? you had to have a few jabs in you. You know what I mean? Cortisons, just to get into a game. You know what I mean? Like now I don't know. I don't know if the game's what the game is. I mean, it can't be more physical because our game was pretty physical. You know what I mean? There was some right battles, but I don't know the injuries what they get. They seem to get them. They seem to last forever, don't they? You know, there seems to be not. Oh, he's not playing because he's got. You know, it was just a jab, or when he got a dead leg, you had to get it seen to, and you wouldn't expect you to play the following week. You know what I mean? Which he did, really.
You know? Yeah, and you look at your appearance record, Dave. You know, you played more than you missed, didn't you? So you must have been a pretty fit bloke, or there was giving you plenty of injections to get out on the pitch.
Yeah. You got the odd few injections. You know what I mean? But it's only if you got a bad injury that you had to see it out. But yeah, we kept busy. We kept fit. We was a pretty fit side. We did train pretty hard. You know what I mean? And like I say, when you look at all the people in there was, 5 Great Britain captains in there, weren't there? You know what I mean? People who'd been about, people who knew the game. Yeah, we was a fit side, and we did train hard, but we got the results at the end.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about, obviously, you making your Great Britain debut, but you've already mentioned one game which is probably infamous in Hull Kingston Rovers history, and that's the 1983 tour by Queensland of England. I think you know what I'm going to mention, obviously, about Mark Broadhurst, but what a game that was. It must have been incredible to play in, and obviously they set the stall out from the start, and they to be physical and dominate Rovers, but you and the rest of the lads really stood up to that.
Yeah, it was an incredible, well, probably the best result ever for Hull Kingston Rovers, to beat Queensland, who had gone all before, 3 or 4 years unbeaten, haven't they, in that state of origin. And to come over and I was captain that day, I was funny enough as well. And like I say, it was great to lead the team out at the end. I remember him scoring a try after about 10 or 15 minutes, and it was so quick. I thought, Christ, mate, how quick was that? You know what I mean? It was. Scored a beautiful try, and then we just dug in and tackled and tackled, and we got a try and got in front and just tackled our hearts on work for each other. And I say one of the best results ever.
Yeah, and I think what's telling about that result is the other 2 games of it. They played Wigan and they trounced them 40 points to 2, and then they managed to put 58 points past Leeds. So it really highlights, doesn't it, how good that performance was from Rovers, and what a performance it was. But how close to you was you to the Mark Broadhurst punch?
I just couldn't believe it when he'd done it, you know what I mean? And the referee, I mean, look, in them days, how they used to let it go, Robbie Whitfield. Unbelievable how he let that go, didn't it? But there was a lot of niggles through it, you know what I mean? He'd let a bit go anyway. He let a bit go for them, but that was probably the best punch you'll ever see in your life.
And you must have been surprised that he didn't get a red card for that.
Yeah, well, I just thought he's off. He's off. And then when he told he went over to the kid who was on the floor there, Hulker, and he's gone over him and said, "Get up," you know what I mean? he's asleep, you know what I mean? It was unbelievable. But it was a great win. One of the best ever, actually. Queensland, after they played the other 2, they wanted to play us again, and Colin Long said to go float. We got enough injuries in the game. We lost two people in that game. And we was playing a Yorkshire Cup final the following week. We went with half a side to that because we've got that many bloody injuries,
Yeah, was that that would have been against? Was that against Hull FC, that one?
No, it was Leeds.
Was it Leeds? Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah, we got down. We only had half a side. I think it was after the Queensland game or the New Zealand game when they toured. I know we played them in the week and we got injury after injury, and only just put a side out, on the Saturday. Fancy playing that midweek and having a Yorkshire Cup final on the Saturday. Yeah. But that's how it was. You just played all them games, you know what I mean?
Well, those were the really Helicon days, weren't they? Because now, I mean, touring sides, playing against international sides.
right.
You know, it's dead in the water, isn't it? And to be able to say, you know, you've played against Queensland, you've played against, you know, some of these international sides must be, you know, tremendously exciting for you at the time, but lots of fond memories for you to look back on as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. I say that was a great year for us, wasn't it? 84. You know, winning the league, winning the Premiership, beating Queensland. Fantastic year.
Yeah, and then obviously you went on, you made your Great Britain debut at you know, towards the sort of the latter stages of your career. 1984, you played France twice. Was you, I suppose, surprised it took you that long to make a Great Britain appearance, or have there ever been any mentions sort of previous to you making your debut that they was looking at you?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. Well, I don't think I'd ever play for Great Britain. You know what I mean? Ever, but it was just that year. I probably had the best year I'd ever had. You know what I mean? And when it come to it, because there was some good loose forwards about. You know what I mean? But yeah, I had a couple of games for Great Britain. If I'm honest, I didn't enjoy. I know people say, "Well, you're playing for your country, what an honour." It is. It was an honour, but I'd rather have pulled a red and white shirt on than a Great Britain shirt, if I'm honest. And I've always said that all the time, you know what I mean? But yeah, in that team, the team what France the first one, Dave Watke, he played hooker, he broke his leg after about 10 minutes. And he wasn't a bad team. Harry Hanley, it was his first game for Great Britain. It was his first ever one. You know, players like that was playing Joe Ladd and, you know, Lee Crooks. Yeah, so it was good. It was good to experience it. But like I say, if I had the choice, I'd have put a red and white shirt on rather than that Great Britain shirt, to be honest.
Yeah, wow. But I suppose it just shows you how much and how much it means to you. And this is why we love doing these heritage casts, because, you know, when we listen to some of the former players, you know, people who represented the club, you know, 300 times to right through to players who have maybe played only 20, 30, 40 times. I think what's unique is with a lot of people really get it. They really buy into sort of representing Rovers and representing the East Hull community. And, you know, obviously for you to say that, you know, you'd rather play for Rovers than Great Britain just shows you how much the club means to you. If you look back, I know you've mentioned the Queensland game as being a highlight. Obviously, we've talked about the 𝐁𝐮𝐝 Cup. You know, the championships and the premierships. Is the one real moment that stands out to you?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about Wembley, but I must admit that the Floodlit final was the first time, you know, when we won something, and it was at times when it was exciting times, because we knew then we had a good side. You know what I mean? We did well in the league that year, and then the next year to win the championship. So, as much as Wembley means everything to us, you know, that night, that Tuesday night against Saints, Old Craven Park was, you know, to the rafters. There was people climbing up everywhere. You know what I mean? I don't know what the capacity was supposed to have been, but I know there was a lot more in it then. It was a great night to be, you know, to win it and then go up into the West End and get the trophy, you know what I mean, in front of everybody was fantastic. That lives long in the memory.
Yeah, did you keep much memorabilia, Dave? You still got any shirts or?
No, not really. I've got my Wembley shirt, but I think I give it away really. I've got the medals and all that, you know what I mean, all the medals. They just sat near me anyway now, but shirts and that I really give them away, you know. I didn't really keep them. But see, I've got my Wembley shirt, and the medals, but it's the memories are more better than anything.
Yeah, I bet you got lots of prized mementos, and I bet you love sharing them with the family as well, don't you? Because you know that you're part of a family that's got a rich rugby league heritage, aren't you?
Oh, marvellous! I mean, you know, look, I was, you know, my brother who just passed away. Obviously, he played for Rovers Colts in the great Colts team. With Mike Smith and Ian Robinson, they won the Colts championships. I remember going to watch them in '72 at Station Road. What a team that was, you know. Brilliant academy side, some great players in it. And obviously, like I say, Roy Ostock's married to my sister, so you've got like that side of it, you know. Obviously, Craig plays with us, and then you've got Breezy, you know, Lee Breers, who's married to my daughter. So it's just rugby. Rugby. We're just a rugby family, and everybody loves it.
Yeah, it's great. And I suppose when you look back on your career, who do you reckon's had the biggest influence on what you've managed to achieve?
That's hard. You know what I mean? It was just. I think we was a real tight knitted group. You know what I mean? And I just think everybody, when they look back, you got help from him, you got help from him, you got help from him. You know what I mean? Everybody helped each other. There was even though there was fantastic players, and like I say, Great Britain captains and fantastic, some of the best players in the world, you were still a family. You know what I mean? Even now, when we get together, it's just like a big family, and that's what we was. And I just think, I don't know what the, just everybody who I played with, everybody that said there was no prima donnas, everybody was fantastic.
Yeah. It must be hard, especially when you're so many great players, coaches, etc. It must be hard to pick one person. But obviously, another thing that he must be really proud of is your son Craig, who's obviously gone on to forge his own career. A really successful career in his own right, regarded as a really good Rovers player during his spells at the club. Someone we've had on the podcast, and someone's obviously who's helped us out to get you on, Dave. So thanks Craig for sorting that out. But I suppose how difficult is it been for you to let Craig go on and do his own thing and maybe not give him advice when you want to say something to him and get involved with his own thing, because obviously he wants to get on and do his own thing. It must be difficult at times for you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's been a pleasure watching him, to be honest with you. I think he's a great rugby league player. He's got marvellous ability. He scores tries. His defence weren't always the best, but there's a lot of people like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, even now he's making us really proud. He's gone to Featherstone, and they absolutely love him there, and he's playing out of his skin. You know what I mean? He's still playing real well. His time at Rovers, we loved it. Obviously, all the family and all that. When he put that red and white shirt on, you know what I mean. When he's won at the KC, you know what I mean. Got a few man of the matches against Hull and that. Got really proud moments. Really. Like I say, he's coming to the end of his career, but he's playing so well at the minute and still loving his rugby. And we're real proud to go watch him. We really are. Yeah, it's been good. Been very good.
Yeah, and obviously he's the technical whiz in the family, isn't he? Because he's been able to help you out with all the tech today.
Yeah, all the techs. Well, I'm not good at this, but I heard that it'd been on before me, and I said to him, "Well, you usually have an encore before the main event. You know what I mean? Somebody who comes on."
Yeah, and if you cast an eye over Rovers at the moment, obviously 2 disappointing defeats against Wigan and Huddersfield. We've got Castleford up next. It does take time, doesn't it, for a team to get going sometimes. I suppose.
Yeah.
If you was to give a bit of advice, what would you say to the lads?
I think, last year was an exceptional year, wasn't it? You know what I mean? And we basically got the same nucleus of the team from last year. So I think we'll win more than we lose. But obviously we started with 2 losses. The Wigan game, I was talking to Lee before, and they was really up for it. You know what I mean? And they've done their own work on us. They wanted to play at a fast pace. They wanted to make sure they sorted our edges out, which I thought they did. And they just looked a yard faster on the night, and they deserved the win. I ain't seen the Huddersfield game. I'm very disappointed with the result. I thought we'd go there and win. Talking to a few lads who went, said we never really got off the bus, you know what I mean? It was pretty poor. Now, this game for me on Friday is a must win. We've got to get 2 points. Cass aren't playing that well. And I know the coaches, if they're in, they think, no, we must win. It's only the 3rd game, but it's important that we've got to get points on the board. I mean, you get beat Friday and then you've got St Helens, and all of a sudden you're 1 out of 4, and there's a bit of a struggle there, isn't there? Not a relegation struggle, but we want to be looking at the top 6 again, don't we? So, but yes, I say Rovers will win more than they'll lose, and this is a great opportunity on Friday. We've got to go out there and get 2 points. We've got to win the game. Simple.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned there about, Wigan had done their own work on us, and I think that was my takeaway from that game, is that they'd done a number on us there. They'd worked out who to slow down, who to put the pressure on, and obviously they capitalised on a couple of our mistakes, didn't they, which we didn't need to really give them. But I suppose it's like anything, your first trophy, you're getting your first win. Once you get one under your belt, it's a lot easier to get your next one. And I think that's why this CAS game is so important now, because if you lose that and you go into the Saints game, you're under a lot of pressure. Whereas if you get a win against CAS, everyone's lifted a bit, everyone's walking around with their chest puffed out a bit more, and there's a bit more confidence. So fingers crossed we can get it, because we don't want to be talking about three defeats on a trot and then having Saints coming up. But Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I can only thank you for coming on and sharing your memories of playing for Hull Kingston Rovers and your memories of success, and we've already said we're all desperate for Rovers to get back up there, whether it happens, on the level that it did back then. But like we said, you represented the club with such a plum. You made so many appearances, you won so many trophies. It's been an absolute pleasure. And what's your abiding memory of being at Hull Kingston Rovers and representing the club?
Mate, it's, like I say, since I first saw when I was 11, even till now, it's just Rovers right through, my heart, and playing with such great players, and then meeting all the fans, and it's been absolute, you wear the badge with distinction, and I've loved every minute of it, and I will do, and I'm just hoping, like you just said, I hope that we can finally get somewhere and get a trophy, It's been too long, hasn't it? It's been too long.
Yeah, it's definitely been too long, and hopefully we're not too far away from some more success. But it's been great, Dave. Just want to thank our sponsors, Chartered Accountants 360, Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Remember, you can catch all our podcasts on Twitch, YouTube and Facebook. You can listen to them on all the main podcast providers. It's been great speaking to you, Dave. I hope you take care, and hopefully next time we get to talk, it's about Rovers' success more recently than it has been. But take care, Dave, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Okay, thanks very much, mate.